If you use this build and enjoy the content, consider giving the video a like and subscribe if you want to see more build videos in the future. Also, go support me over at my Twitch, it'll be in the description. Hey everybody, it's Hater, and welcome back to another build video. In this one, we're going to be creating the ultimate Stasis Hunter build for Season of the Lost. You heard that right, folks, the ultimate Stasis Hunter build. This is going to be a series of videos I'm going to be releasing over Season of the Lost, where we make the best build that you can make possible for each subclass, going into exotics, what weapons you should be running, and what mods you should be running. And we're going to be kicking this series off with the Stasis Hunter, as I believe it's going to be one of the most broken subclasses we can use as of Season of the Lost. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The way this build works is for us to make full use of the Stasis Melee Withering Blade, allowing us to overload champions, create orbs of light, elemental wells, and stacks of charge with light that we spend on more Withering Blades. And we can even go invisible and gain all of our HP back in the process. But every Stasis build always starts off with the aspects and fragments, so let's start there. For the aspects, we're going to be using Grim Harvest for Stasis Shards. Basically, every time we kill a combatant that is affected by our slows or freezes, it's going to create Stasis Shards, and whenever we pick them up, they're going to give us melee energy back. For the other aspect, we're going to be using Touch of Winter, where each one of our grenades is going to be upgraded in one way or another, making them more effective. But out of all of them, we're going to be using the Duskfield grenade, where it's going to be larger and have a mini stasis crystal in the center. This is going to allow us to proc Grim Harvest much more consistently, and to lock the enemies down where we can throw Withering Blades at them while they're frozen. For the fragments, we're going to be using Whisper of Durance. Every time we slow an enemy, it's going to last longer and be stronger. Whisper of Fractures, whenever we're near two enemies, our melee is going to recharge faster. Whisper of Hunger, where every time we pick up a Stasis Shard, the amount of melee energy we gain is going to be increased. And finally, Whisper of Conduction, where Stasis Shards, whenever we're near them, are going to be sucked into us, allowing us to pick them up at a larger range. You could also pair Whisper of Bonds in this slot with the new Aegir's Scepter, allowing you to proc every fragment in the game off of each kill with it. In other words, you could do something like this. Moving on to the armor and mods. For the energy on your hunter's armor, you're going to specifically look for 4 pieces of your armor being arc, besides your arms. For your arms, you're going to want them to be stasis. I'll explain in a moment. For the ability distribution, you're going to want to have around, or as close as possible, 50 to 70 mobility, 20 to 40 resilience, 100 recovery, 20 to 40 discipline, 100 intellect, and 50 to 70 strength. And I know this is a melee build. Why do you not want 100 strength? That's because you don't really need 100 strength to make the most of this build. I have around 30 to 40 on my hunter, and my hunter's armor is Garbo. Yet I'm still making the most of it and getting my melee very consistently. In those stasis arms, however, we're going to be using elemental shards. Basically, the way this mod works is every time you pick up a stasis shard, it's going to count as a stasis elemental well. And unfortunately, the mod currently isn't out as I'm recording this, but I can still talk about it with you guys because it's going to be very broken, and I further broke it down in my previous video, which will be on the top right if you're interested in that. Also going on the arms, we're going to be using melee kickstart. Every time we fully use our melee charge, it's going to give us melee energy back. If you're familiar with the mod grenade kickstart, it's the exact same thing, but for your melee. Next to it is going to be thermoclastic blooming from the artifact. Basically, every time we get a kill with a stasis or solar melee charge, it's going to create an orb of light on every kill, including ricochets on our withering blade. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of thermoclastic blooming because Bungie turned the mod off due to a game-breaking bug that it had with Telesto. But that's besides the point. Let's move on to the arc armor. For the helmet, chest piece, and pants, you can pretty much put whatever mod you want from this list into each of them that feels comfortable to you. But what I have going on in the helmet is I have the mod heavy-handed, where every time we are charged with light, whenever we spend our melee charge, it's going to give half of our melee back, consuming 1 stack of charge with light. In other words, if we have 2 stacks of charge with light and we throw 2 shurikens, we have a 3rd shuriken just waiting there for us. Next to that is going to be 2 hands-on mods from the artifact, where every time we get a kill with our shurikens, it's going to give us bonus super energy. For the chest piece, we're going to be running Overcharge Wellmaker. The way this mod works is every time we get a kill with our finisher, it's going to create 2 arc wells that we can pick up for energy. In the pants, we're going to be running Elemental Charge. Every time we pick up a well, it's going to give us a stack of charge with light. If it matches our subclass, it's going to give us 2 stacks of charge with light instead. This is going to work in tandem with Elemental Shards, where every time we pick up a Stasis shard, it's going to give us 2 stacks of charge with light per shard. Next to that, we're also going to be running an Invigoration mod, where every time we pick up a Orb of Light, it's going to give us more melee energy. And on the cloak, we're going to be running Particle Deconstruction, where every time we hit an enemy with a fusion rifle or linear fusion rifle, it's going to add a stacking debuff that makes those weapons do more damage to that target. And then we get to these slots where they're basically up to you depending on if you want to use a bow or not. If you plan on running a bow, then you're going to be using Well of Striking, where every time we pick up a arc elemental well, it's going to give us more melee energy. This is why we run Overcharge Wellmaker, because this will synergize with Well of Striking. And in the other slot, we're going to be using Resonant Siphon, where every time a champion is stunned, it's going to give us a bunch of energy to all of our abilities. And if you don't plan on running a bow, you're going to be using Thermoclastic Strike, where it's going to make your shurikens overload champions on hit. Then on top of that, if an overload champion is stunned by you or a member of your fire team, it's going to refresh your melee ability, giving you another shuriken. Now that we've got the mods set up, there are a total of 3 exotic armor pieces that will change up the playstyle of the build based on what activity you are running, or whatever you feel like. I don't judge. The most obvious and jack of all trades is Lucky Pants. If you don't know what Lucky Pants does, it makes all hand cannons you draw have a buff called Illegally Modded Holster. Basically, if it's a kinetic hand cannon or a hand cannon that matches your subclass type and the magazine is full, it's going to give you a 10-second timer to build up a 400% damage bonus towards the enemies you are hitting, allowing you to hit some pretty high damage numbers, some of which are on par with most heavy weapons in the game. A few notable hand cannons to pair with this exotic are the Crimson, Malfeasance, 7th Seraph Officer Revolver with 4th times the charm and Vorpal weapon, and a Vulpecula with Headstone. The only reason we use Vulpecula is for the perk Headstone, where every time we get a headshot kill with it, it's going to create a stasis crystal on the target's body. That is going to allow us to shoot that crystal and hit enemies that are nearby it, or freeze targets that are also nearby it, proccing Grim Harvest in the process. For higher tier content, however, like GMs, we can use the exotic helmet Assassin's Cowl to further synergize with Withering Blade and Overcharge Wellmaker. Because what Assassin's Cowl does is whenever we get a kill with our Withering Blade or finisher, it's going to heal us to max HP and turn us invisible. This is really good because whenever we get a champion low, we're going to be able to finisher them, gain 2 arc wells, gain all of our HP back, go invisible, pick the wells up, and gain melee energy all at the same time, to then go invisible again on the next enemy. In layman's terms, you're going to be able to cosplay Madara from Naruto, where he's fighting 1,000 people at once. You know which scene I'm talking about. The next exotic on this list is more of a meme than anything, but Star Eater scales can be used to synergize with the massive amount of orbs of light we're creating because of the mod Thermoclastic Blooming. Basically, if you don't know what Star Eater scales does, every time we pick up a orb of light, it's going to add a stack to it, increasing the damage of our super whenever we use it. This was really overpowered back when Vault of Glass just came out, where hunters were able to get like max stacks on this thing and do more damage with Golden Gun than Celestial Nighthawk. Yeah, it was pretty goated, but Bungie had to cut things short and nerf it really hard, where now you require double the amount of current Orbs of Light to get that damage buff again, making it almost not practical to use at that point. But since we're using our melee charges to create Orbs of Light, we can kind of get those stacks built up relatively fast. And I believe that is going to be covering the Ultimate Stasis Hunter build video for today. Same thing as usual. If you think there's anything that could be better for this build, or anything that you guys have found yourself, leave them down in the comment section and I can pin them so that other people will know. But that's going to be it for me, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.